from the Brunswick Holiday Bowl in Syracuse, New York, the USA Network presents the Professional Bowlers Tour, the $100,000 Syracuse Open. Today's 5 finalists are, in 5th place, Mike Durban, our colleague on USA Bowling. He won the PBA title here in 1979, and he's trying to better his 5th spot on the '83 PBA money tree. The 4th place finisher, 6'7", 240-pound Steve Cook, making his 6th TV appearance this year, and needs a win today to go into the top 10 money winners. Qualifying 3rd, Gary Skidmore. This is his 5th championship round appearance this year. The baritone from New Mexico would love to add his 3rd tour title to his record. In 2nd place, 23-year-old John Forst. These Syracuse lanes have been good to John. This week-long average, 218.4, including the 300 game. And the man they'll be shooting at, the leader, Southpaw Joe Salvemini. He only has 1 career win on the tour, but his 222 average. They're saying he's 6'7", which I believe, but they're saying 240. Come on.
Well, Steve either lost a lot of weight before the telecast started, or they made a mistake on his weight. I talked to Steve. He's actually 270.
Ah, that's more. This is a grade school weight they've got down.
Yes, it is.
Friendly handshake. We're ready to go. Mike Durban, very familiar to all of our USA viewers. A real gentleman, a fellow that knows the game, and as Joe himself said, an impeccable record. 16 years on the tour and 12 titles. Not bad.
That's pretty hard to do.
He tried to give it some body English there, but it just wouldn't happen for him.
Well, the ball went a little high. Mike's playing a little farther outside than he has been all week. When the ball hit the head pin, it's just a little high in the pocket, enough to leave the 4-pin. You watch Mike's approach here. Very deliberate player, takes his time, very straight arm swing, good knee bend, good follow through. That gets the ball to the target 90% of the time, which makes him the player that he is.
Here he is. And he picks it up. Mike averaged 217.3 for the week. And delivered is the word. He's kind of like the Gaylord Perry of bowling. He'll take a lot of time. Now to Steve Cook.
We're going to take our first look at Steve, and you're going to see the most awesome bowling ball in the PBA Tour today.
Looks like a softball in his hand. The size of this man. You said it, Joe Berardi. Average 217.4 during the week, but he's off to a good start.
Steve did something last night during the finals, the match play competition. He had 5 games over 260, which is remarkable. You watch Steve's approach. For a big man, he's very smooth. He's got a little higher backswing than Mike, but he generates so much power at the bottom of the swing, the pins don't stand a chance.
I wouldn't want to be a pin sitting down there looking at this guy coming at me. That'd be the last thing I'd want to be right now. Steve Cook, $58,815 in earnings this year. So, great start here for big Steve Cook from Roseville, California.
Well, Mike's got his work cut out. Steve is definitely all offense. And since there is no defense in bowling, Mike's really going to have to make shots.
I'm just noticing the shot of Steve Cook there. I'm glad he's got a nice disposition. He's a very affable fellow. I wouldn't want to get him mad at me.
No, I don't like to. I usually run out of the paddock when he doesn't bowl too well, just in case.
This is Mike Durban.
That's 2 4-pins in a row for Mike. Already at a deficit of 11 pins after 2 frames, but it's a 10-frame game and anything can happen. Mike's going to have to give the ball a little more room.
He avoided the gauntlet last night because in the final round of last night's positioning, Mike Durban saw 3 of the other people that he had to get by roll splits. And he picked up the big ones by rolling a big game.
Well, Mike went from 11th to 5th, which is remarkable to do, to move up 6 places in one game.
Well, he's got 2 spares working, but Mr. Cook, back-to-back strikes to start him off. Mike Durban, 42, Chagrin Falls, Ohio.
42, and for Mike's career, as great as he is, I hope he wins a lottery or something so he could retire. This way we can get a few extra spots in the finals.
He's a Hall of Famer.
Quite a competitor. Oh, yes.
Won this event, 79. Of course, he's won the big one at Firestone, as has Joe Berardi, who's sitting right next to me today. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
That's happened since the last time you and I worked together.
That's right, and I had to get by Mike in order to win that tournament. It wasn't easy.
It never is. Down 11. And the love tap picks up 1, but not quite 2.
That's something different that I saw in Mike's game just now. Mike is trying to avoid the 4-pin by throwing the ball, lofting the ball out on the lane a little more. Usually Mike would make a move on the lane to try and compensate for the late hook. But watch how far he gets the ball over the foul line here, but pulls his arm across his body as he's doing it. Now the ball doesn't have enough room to get to the pocket, but he got a break and ended up with a spare.
So Cook now 12 up. Getting set to roll here in the 3rd frame. That's Mike Durban. Giving some serious thought to what his task is. Now, this is one of the things you'll see Cook do a lot of. He'll pound that rosin in those holes. Make sure he gets it just about right.
Well, he's so strong, he starts off with 3 rosin bags and ends up with 2.
Look at the grip.
He's just got a massive hand, and he cups his wrist to try and get maximum turn on the ball.
Come on, Steve!
My goodness. Look at how far out he starts that.
Well, he's got to give the ball room. If he starts the ball off to the right of his target, the ball has no chance to strike. He's always got a chance to strike when the ball's at the left of his target. The reason he left that 7-pin is because of the angle, the entry into the pocket. The 4-pin just laid into the gutter. Really didn't have the hitting power the last 2 did.
6th championship round appearance and 2nd in 5 weeks in 1983.
Well, when he gets it going, he's just phenomenal.
Of course, as we've already told you, that final round last night, unreal. Well, that's the man that went from 15 to 4th in the final block to get here. That's an incredible leap.
Yes, it is, but he threw so many strikes last night. There's no other place to go but up. Look here, Cook's got an 11-pin lead going into the 4th frame. Durban's going to have to get some strikes in order to make that up.
Kind of reminds me of that old commercial with Bubba Smith where he squeezes the bowling ball. I think probably this guy could take the real thing and squeeze it.
It's very possible.
Come on, Steve!
It looks like Steve was a little disturbed there. Somebody on the side moved and caught his attention. Obviously wasn't the execution he wanted. Still, the ball got back to the pocket.
Don't get him mad.
No, it's the wrong thing to do. Spare time, you might pick up Volkswagens just for exercise.
And take a bite out of it. They call him the Cookie Monster. That's his nickname.
It's appropriate, but he's so nice. We like you wouldn't believe.
Well, he had a 278 high game this week. And he's coming right back now. Let's see what he can do against the challenging Mike Durban.
Mike's going to take a little extra time here. Very warm in this bowling center today with the lights and everything. It's in excess of 120 degrees at the foul line.
Let's talk about that in a little bit, what that does to these lanes. 120, like bowling at Busch Stadium in August. And that's what Mike did to get himself here. He rolls 7 straight strikes in the position round to qualify for this 5th spot.
Okay, now, you watch the ball here. Mike lays it down in the same place, and actually the ball hooks a little higher. Really doesn't get the ball out on the lane that well and pulls it a little across his target. Now watch the ball hit high, and the 2-pin will take out the 4-7, which is a very good break for Mike Durban.
Here's our scoreboard. And you see Durban, who's towing the line right now, and where he stands.
He can make the match all even with a strike here.
He won the Showboat Doubles Classic in 1983. Mike is a real intense bowler, as I mentioned. He'll take lots of time.
Yes, he will. You know, there's only 10 frames and there's only one game. If you lose that game, you're gone, so you don't want to make any mistakes at all.
What's he doing?
Well, what I think he's doing is he was bothered a little bit again by somebody on the side. It's very crucial that you pay all attention to your mark and what you're doing now.
Got it. Mike Durban, all 175 pounds behind that one.
It seems like he created a little more speed to get the ball to the pocket. Ended up with it. Brian was last week's winner, and it seems that with each week he bowls on the tour, he just gains more pins and more experience every week. He's going to be real tough.
The voice of Joe Berardi, I'm Eddie Doucette, and this is Steve Cook. And Steve is going through the process of doing something with his fingers there, I believe.
Well, what he's doing is putting more tape in the ball.
Oh.
His hand apparently is swelling.
Steve Cook. There's that big hook we talked about.
Well, that time he definitely sent the ball to the right of his target. He got to the bottom of the swing and looked like he gave it all he could, and he pulled it. As much power as Steve generates, he's got to get the ball out on the lane and get it to the left of his target.
On the winter tour in Anaheim, Steve finished second to Gary Skidmore, who is also here today.
Match has turned around a little bit. Steve is now down 3 pins. He's looking to start striking again.
How quickly it can change, as you found out in the positioning round, Joe.
Do you have to bring up such unbearable moments?
You're such a good sport, though. I know you won't get upset.
No.
Joe Berardi, who many people consider to be among the elite on the tour today, with us on our USA telecast from Syracuse for the 10th Syracuse Open. This is a difficult split.
That's the 3-7. Well, that's one of the pitfalls of throwing such a powerful ball. You watch Steve pull the ball before this, left it the spare on the right lane, but this one he gets way out. He knows he's got to get the ball out on the lane, but he increased his speed a little. The ball didn't have the angle of entry that it had in the previous 2 strikes, so by resulting in a light hit, which leaves the 3-7.
Is this lane or these lanes conducive to a straight baller or one that throws the big hook?
Well, I feel it's favored a big hook this week. Well, you can't ask for a closer spare than that. Steve gave it his best shot, and the 3-pin just wrapped around the 7. That's just a bad break for Steve Cook.
So Durban now 16 pins a leader.
Well, being the player that Mike is, Mike's going to take all the time in the world here. Right now, he really has to bear down because he can put a lot of pressure on Steve. Just asked for a re-rack and got it. He can take the lead with 26 pins if he throws a strike here.
This is a big trip to the line for Mike Durban. I believe last night, 58 pin difference between 3rd and 11th place going into that position round, and Durban was in 11th place. What an amazing comeback he made.
It's turnarounds. It's amazing. 3 bowlers had a chance to stay ahead of Mike, and they all opened in the 10th frame, which is something you very, very rarely see. Well, Mike just performs up to par, gets the 3rd strike to take a 26-pin lead going into the 7th frame. Talk about picture perfect. Good arm swing as usual. Great follow through. Now watch the ball hit. No deflection at all. He could have knocked 20 pins down with that ball.
He's done all right in his days. $541,694 career earnings. It's a pretty nice, substantial way to make a living.
Yes, it is.
On his bio sheet, they ask him if he has any outside occupations, and he just simply says none. That doesn't appear that he'd need any. Knocking down those kind of numbers.
He keeps bowling the way it is. His outside occupation might have to be accounting.
We keep coming back to that. Those guys are always present.
I know. Oh, that's incredible. That ball, when it left Mike's hand, looked a little wider than the last three, but it just cut through the pins for what we call a fast 8, leaves the 4-7. Mike really gets this ball out on the lane good. The arm swing, his follow-through made the ball go longer, but it cut through the pins so hard, resulted in the fast 8.
Mentioning how he came back last night. He rolled a 255 in his final game. But 4 of the other bowlers ahead of him threw splits in the 10th frame to allow him to make the jump to 5th. Big comeback, and Durban's trying to carry it over today. The Syracuse Open.
Well, right now Mike's at a 216 pace. Steve Cook has a possible 232, which means this match is far from over. Knowing Steve Cook, he's going to try everything he can to get the ball to the pocket. And once he does, he usually gets a strike.
Steve Cook, father of 2 young gals, Stacy and Jill. Needed that one, Joe.
Needs something to get him started, and you can never count Steve Cook out because his ball hits harder than anybody else's. It knocks down more pins when it gets there. Going into the 8th frame, Steve Cook is down 24 pins. With this strike, he could make it 14-pin difference.
Roseville, California. That's where he calls home. Believe it or not, this guy, this big guy, his favorite sport in high school was archery. It's the biggest Robin Hood I've ever seen. Well, he's talking to it now, Joe. Moving all over those lanes.
Well, I'll tell you what, there are some great hits in bowling, but I hope you can see this one because this is one of the most powerful out on tour. Just watch this ball. It just starts revving and revving, and it doesn't stop. It looks like one white line. And watch the 5-pin. Everything goes to the right-hand side. It's remarkable how much turn he gets on the ball. Now look at the difference between Mike and Steve. Mike is basically straight. His hand isn't cupped. He's relaxed in the ball. His wrist is straight. Mike is more of an accurate bowler. I'm not saying that Steve isn't, but Mike really has to hit what he's looking at, which he did right there.
14-pin lead with a strike working. Rolling in the 9th. Mike Durban.
This is going to be the biggest shot of the match for Mike, because without this strike, Steve Cook can throw 3 strikes in the 10th to shut Mike out. So Mike must get this strike in order to prevent that.
The pensiveness of Steve Cook.
He knows how big this frame is, and he knows his work's, he's got his work cut out for him. He can't afford to make any more mistakes.
A lot of strategy going through that gray matter now. And here's Durban, who finished 3rd in the '83 Firestone Tournament of Champions, which Joe Berardi won. Disappointment.
Yes, he's really disgusted about that. It looked like a just perfect shot. The only thing Mike might have gotten a little harder than he has been on the lanes.
His sentiments were echoed by the crowd moments ago.
Everything's flawless, as usual for Mike. But like I said, I think he got a little faster, which made the ball enter a little straighter. Now watch a 6 just wrap around the 10-pin. That's one of the things you just don't know what to do.
Finishing on lane number 11, which most of the bowlers have opted to do. Why, Joe? Why lane 11?
Well, Steve Cook chose to finish on lane 11 for the reason that he's got more confidence in lane 11. I guess the ball hooks back more. He's got a lot more confidence on the lane, where if he needs a double, he likes the lane. He likes the ball reaction on the lane. It's just, you know, a matter of preference. You practice before the telecast, and whichever lane you're hitting better, naturally you'll finish on. Because the finish means the whole thing, especially in a match like this.
Down 14 pins. 9th frame.
Must situation.
Oh, he got downstairs on that one, didn't he?
Yes, Steve doesn't root out too many strikes, but he knew he threw it good, and boy, those pins had no chance. Kind of feel sorry for them.
Yeah.
Watch how far out on the lane he gets this ball. Throws it way out on the lane. And watch it, it's at the 5th board. Now the pocket's on about the 17th board. In the last 10, 15 feet, it hooks 12 boards. You can't beat that.
Just like Steve Carlton coming in with a left hand, big sweeping hook. Scoreboard look, and there it is. That's the story, and that is what Cook has got to work at.
Well, if Steve can throw 2 strikes in the 10th frame, this match is over because he will have it at a 230 pace when Mike Durbin can best it at 226.
Cook averaging 217 plus during the week. Durbin likewise. He feels pretty good about it right now. Cook for the year averaging just under 209. I'm sure a lot of club bowlers out there would say, hey, that's not that awesome. I can do that well.
Well, it's
225
surprising.
average.
Look at Steve when he lets this go. All 270 pounds is down on one knee, and he knows it's got to be good. He gets it. Boy, I wouldn't like to have my head between those 2 hands when he claps.
Now let's develop that thought. The fact that here he is averaging 208.9 for the year, and the club bowler is probably a good one, maybe 225. But there is a difference. Bowling on the tour makes it a lot different.
Well, we bowl over 1,000 games a year on a different pair of lanes every week in a different bowling center every week with no practice. So it's kind of a tricky situation.
Yeah, neighborhood bowling is a little bit different than tripping around the country. What does that do to it, Joe?
That is what we say in the game makes it out of the wood. Steve needs 5 pins on this ball to shut Mike Durbin out.
5 strikes in a row to push this one into the upper right-hand corner of the Amana.
That's correct.
And Mike Durbin knows it.
When you talk about dejection, Mike couldn't have bowled a better game. I mean, on paper, he bowled 300, but just wasn't in the cards today.
What a finish by Steve Cook. And he ends up 232.
You couldn't ask for a better setting than this. 2 Firestone Tournament of Champions winners going against each other in the opening game.
And now Mike Durbin rolling out. Gary Skidmore is in the wings. Will be next. As our Syracuse Open. We'll certainly have some excitement down the line on this one. If it's anything like the positioning round that we had getting into this. Steve Cook with a strong finish. 6 straight strikes. He was down pretty good. Didn't look good for him for a while.
Well, the 9th frame was a whole key for Mike Durbin. He could have actually closed Steve Cook out, but he left a stubborn 10 pin, and it pops up at the most inopportune times. Mike's going to finish 6 pins behind Steve, and he's got no regrets. He bowled a good game, and he just didn't carry in key situations.
The spares at this level don't always do you that good. You've got to come up with the big ones.
Well, especially with Steve Cook when he gets it going. He's got more strikes than the AFL-CIO.
Our TV finalists this week, incidentally, have averaged a little over 218 coming into this one, but too strong a finish for Steve Cook. So many of these truly great professional bowlers. Steve Cook being one of them, 6'7". We found out for sure that it's 270 pounds. So he continues right where he left off. He had 6 in a row going at the end of the last game.
Steve's definitely got the momentum. Watch how far he gets the ball out on the lane and far to the left. And look at the ball turn over. It's just incredible. And the ball, no deflection at all, goes right through the pins. Perfect strike.
And now to Gary Skidmore. There he is, the baritone from Albuquerque. I still like to get him up to sing the national anthem.
He may one week. Notice how fast Gary gets that ball down the lane.
Yeah.
If you blink, you might miss it.
Well, he went to a speed game in his positioning round. He changed up. He said, I figured I had nothing to lose. That was the only technique that I could go to at the time, and it served him well.
Well, Gary does rely on more speed than anything else. Doesn't give the ball a chance to hook high. But yet he gets the ball into the pocket with enough authority to knock those pins out. Gary's really got to rely on his expertise this game, because Steve Cook looks awesome this game. He's got the momentum from last game. He knows what he has to do. And Gary's coming out a little cold, so he's got to make his best shots.
He's won 2 PBA titles. Averaged 216 during the week.
Yeah, he did an amazing thing last night. He won all 8 matches. And
yes.
Averaged approximately 235 for 8 games.
Bad. Not bad at all. Oh, look at this one.
It's the 4-6. It's almost impossible to make, and he's got to start taking his time a little more. Gary's rushing a little. Good arm swing. He's got basically a good game, but he rears up a little at the line, makes him pull the ball a little to the left of his target. Ooh. Doesn't even get one of them. Well, it really doesn't mean that much right now, but it could later on in the game. Steve Cook right here can take a kind of commanding lead. Put at 24 pins with a strike here.
Cook, his 6th championship round appearance, and 2nd in 5 weeks in '83.
You talk about getting a good break there. There again, Steve just pulled the ball a little bit to the right of his target. Watch when he gets to the bottom of the swing here. He tries to generate a little more power than normal and pulls the ball right there. Normally the ball's hitting about the first arrow and out. There it hit inside the first arrow.
Look at this pin. Looks like my legs after I've run my 4 miles. A little wobbly.
Steve can just make this spare. This shouldn't be routine for him. But I'm afraid to say that. It happened the last time and someone missed him.
So an early 14-pin lead for Big Steve Cook. He'd love to be named the PBA Player of the Year, but so would so many others.
Well, I think that's the goal for every player. You know, every new player that comes out here would love to win a tournament and get into the Firestone, stay competitive on tour. And once you're out here for a while, the thing to be is to be named PBA Player of the Year, because you've done more than anybody else that year, and you've done it all yourself.
Can't imagine this guy with a bow and arrow in his hand.
I wonder if the arrows hook. Well, Steve, that frame looked like he took a little speed off the ball. Just trying to regain his composure. You know, once you strike out to win a game, you get a little too pumped up and start getting a little fast.
Well, he had knocked down 7 straight strikes, carrying back to the last game. Got one to lead it off in this game, and here he is. Gary Skidmore.
Fierce competitor on the tour. Gary never gives anything away. He's got to start now. He's got to establish some kind of offense. Gary wears a wrist aid, keeps his wrist a little straighter. Doesn't turn the ball, no cocked wrist like Steve Cook. Gets the ball way out of the lane. Hits high, leaves the 4-7. Gary has to make an adjustment on these lanes. He doesn't have the room to the left that he'd like. He keeps pulling the ball a little bit, it's not holding. He's either going to have to move left on the approach or get the ball out to the right more.
That leads us to kind of a mini controversy, Joe. Lane conditions during TV matches, as opposed to anything else that we might see during the week. And we want to get to that in a moment. Picks him up. There's a theory that the lights have a noticeable effect on lane conditions. You mentioned the temperature being 120 degrees on the lanes, obviously having an effect on the humidity as we look at the score.
Well, Skidmore is 13 pins behind right now, and he hasn't shown anything yet, and he must do something, make a couple of changes in his game right now, or else Steve Cook's just going to take full advantage of it. And this is the lane he likes. He's up on lane 11. He did make a change that time. He tried to move farther outside, what we call outside the second arrow. And it looked like he tried to force the ball into the pocket. You watch Gary, gets the line real well, gets long extension, but starts the ball too far left. He's not giving the ball any room. You know, trust is a must out here, or else you're not going to go on to the next match.
He averaged 235, as you mentioned, moving from 14 to 3, positioning round. But he needs some more of that luck now because he won 8 straight matches last night to get to this point today. What about these lane conditions? What kind of an effect do the lights have?
Well, they have a great effect. All week, it's approximately 67 to 70 degrees. When we get to the air time, it's over, well, around 120 degrees. And the heat, actually, it has a tendency to dry up the oil. And the bowling balls that we're using today, the urethane, creates static electricity, which creates a magnetic field that brings the oil farther down the lane. And there are some theories that they're trying to compensate, and they're working on them now. Our PBA lane staff is probably the most knowledgeable because they've got so much great talent to work with, and their research is excellent. So I feel that they should come up with an answer real soon.
Dr. Berardi working on his thesis. My goodness. Multifaceted Joe Berardi.
Well, it's not a question of putting your hand in the ball anymore. It's a very scientific game, and there are a lot of different little intricacies that you have to know.
Well, we'll keep it in mind here. So the conditions, the static electricity, the humidity, the heat, everything involved. But you can't take that away. That was just a pure roll by Big Steve Cook. I don't know if anything affected that or if anything would affect that kind of an effort. And he is ready to set it up here. Skidmore trailing by 25 pins. Joe, do you find that as the week wears on or a match wears on that the scores are not quite as high as they are like earlier on when the lanes or the oil is fresh?
Well, no. Basically, throughout the week, the scores are basically stable. The bowlers seem to bowl a little better because you have the top 24, and they are, so to speak, the experts of this week. The head-to-head match play creates a little more of an air about the tournament. You really get down to bowling someone, and it's important to win your match, so they put more of a priority on getting strikes. Take a look at Gary's wife, Sherry. She knows there's something wrong with Gary right now, and she's hoping he gets out of it real quick.
Been married about a year now. And he says it makes life a lot more bearable on the road. As his wife with him, as they travel about the country. Came a long way, Albuquerque.
That's tough on the road.
Not easy.
I know my wife keeps rolling my tapes for my son so he remembers what I look like.
No changes, huh, Joe?
No.
You never age. He can't get them to fall.
Well, at least now he's got an opportunity. He's got the ball going into the 1-3 pocket. I think he's just trying to overpower the lanes a little bit too much. If he'd cut back on his speed a little and let the ball make a move at the other end of the lane to get that 10 and that 8 out.
He's yet to strike. Skidmore.
You cannot give Steve Cook this much of an advantage.
And so Skidmore, who's won just about $110,000 career, is struggling against the big man, Steve Cook.
Steve knows with 2 strikes here, he could take a 47-pin lead. And it's going to be kind of tough to catch somebody with a ball like his being down 47 pins.
Cook, who finished second in the '83 Miller High Life Classic, trying to move on and get himself another tour win today. He's won 7 titles since he came on the scene 6 years ago.
That's better than 1 a year. That's kind of hard to do.
Cook enjoying the score right now.
Well, he's got a 37-pin lead going into the 7th. Raymond can increase it to 47, which is going to put Gary Skidmore in a very difficult situation. Unbelievable. Once he gets started, there's just no stopping him.
They finished strong in the game against Mike Durban. Finished with 6 straight strikes. Started with a strike in this one, and now has rolled 4 in a row after 2 spares, the 2nd and 3rd frames. So Cook is cooking in Syracuse. And Skidmore picks up his first strike of the match. It is down 47 pins. Long ladder to climb.
Okay, you watch Gary here. Gary's moved inside to the left of the lane a little more. Got the ball out of the lane, but still slowed down his speed. Now here the ball will make a move to the left to take out the 5. Very good ball. Whereas before, the ball didn't have a chance to finish, and it deflected and left the 8-pin or the 10-pin. Sherry's looking on. She says, well, now he's got a chance. He knows what he has to do.
We're not talking steak, but we're sure talking a big pizza now, right? All right, starting to get online a little bit. He's cut the gap.
Well, right now, Gary Skidmore's best is 222. If Steve Cook gets good counts and marks out, he'll be in the high 220s. So in order for Gary to win this match, Steve Cook is going to have to do something out of the ordinary, like open.
Yes, and you haven't seen him do that yet. Opens on this tour are deadly.
Oh, yes. It can make you or break you, and usually break you.
Oh, he's got one now. He's got a tough pickup here.
This changes the whole outlook of the match right now. Watch Steve here. It looks like he gets a little slow, and when he gets slow, he has a tendency to pull the ball. Here he does. He hits the 2nd arrow that time, and his ball's got to be way to the left of that. Watch the ball just cut through, no deflection at all, and the result, he leaves the 4, 6, 7, 10, which is a very, very difficult spare.
Looked like he took something off that one.
And now we've got the same situation as we had last game. If Steve Cook does not strike on this ball, Gary Skidmore can throw 4 strikes in the 10th and the 9th to win by 1 pin. So this is a must for Steve Cook.
Cook with a career TV record of 20-12. His TV averages are right around 217, which is what he averaged this week. 217.4. Game saver.
That's exactly right. True champion of Steve is. He knows the situation. He knew he needed that strike. Now, Gary Skidmore is definitely put to a test here.
Remember that Cook had to come from 15th place to get to the spot that he ended up with going into the championship round today. So he knows a little bit about the pressure. That final block last night was just an incredible performance by Cook. Skidmore forced. Here's Gary Skidmore. A nice high finish nets in the strike. He's got 3 in a row working.
The situation is now, if Gary Skidmore strikes in the 10th frame, the first ball, he takes the lead by 1 pin. And he threw it a little wider, but he's trying to get it back. He's helping it. He got it, and he knows it.
Got some good backup moves there, doesn't he? It's not always easy to back up on your toes.
No, well, you have to know where all the ball returns are. And you look here, Gary Skidmore is right now at a 9-pin deficit. With 1 strike in the 10th frame, he can take a lead. And if he strikes out in the 10th, it will force Steve Cook to strike out also, or to get at least the first 2 strikes.
Skidmore's high game this week, 279. And that twice.
Well, Gary took pity on me. He only bowled 235 against me.
That's all he had to do. I couldn't resist it.
Well, I set myself up for that one.
You'll have a chance to come back for more.
Well, one thing good about the tour is there's always next week. There's been a lot of next weeks lately for me.
Hey, I know how you feel. They call him skids, and he's trying to prevent from hitting them right now.
That was the costliest shot of the match for Gary Skidmore. He just got to the line, pulled the ball, and he knows he pulled it. He's trying to back it up in his mind. He knows it's a bad shot, and now he knows he's got no chance to win this match.
Well, you can't win with the opens, as I mentioned. And he leaves himself open here in the 10th. And he had a lot of splits in between. He got it running there pretty good. 3 strikes in a row. All Cook needs now is 9 pins.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Now, well, wait a minute now.
No, Cook needs 4 pins.
4 pins. 4 pins.
Just enough. Steve knows he made a bad shot, but he knows that he won the match, and he's got to regroup and start all over again. Right now, Gary Skidmore's feelings are just, I can sympathize with him because he knows all he needed was a mark.
So there it is. Steve Cook will move on with a 199-188 victory over Gary Skidmore. And just around the corner, the next man, the big man, that will be John Forst. When we
2 of the most compatible bowlers going from right-handed to left-handed. They're both power players, and you watch when John Forst bowls, it's looking like a mirror image of Steve Cook.
$13,000 riding on this event. 13,000 bucks. Boy, has this tour come a long way.
Yes, it has.
So Cook, who had a string going, he didn't like the way he turned it over.
Well, he got a little fast there, maybe a little over-anxious. Left at 378. That's the result of the ball coming a little too wide, and that sharp break just doesn't get anything out. That's kind of tough spare. Usually what we do in this case is we either go for the 2 pins or just throw it hard like Steve's going to do.
Second time we've seen that today. So Steve Cook, who has defeated Mike Durban and Gary Skidmore, now will accept the challenge of young John Forst, who has yet to win his first PBA title. He rolled a 300 game this week, so you know that he's been sailing it down the lanes in nice fashion. What does he do with his grip? He's got a unique way of getting set.
Well, yes, he does. Basically, it's the same, but John keeps his left hand on the ball a little higher than everybody else. Look at how cupped his wrist is. Now, this is where he generates all of that power from. He's got a good approach. Stands all the way to the left. Now, that wrist is that he's got one of the biggest explosion points, as we call it, on the right-hand side of the lane. Just a little light.
Remember now, the winner of this match will go on to meet the leader, the event coming into today's finals, Joe Salvemini.
This is what it comes down to. If you don't win this game, you don't have a chance at the title. So these two players know about that.
Forrest from LaGrange, Illinois. 5th year on the tour. And a unique grip indeed.
Look at that wrist. He could almost get a callus on his forearm from that grip. This is what generates all the turn that he gets. And watch the ball go all the way out and come back. That's absolutely amazing. It's just like watching a mirror image of Steve Cook. Both players rely heavily on their power. Watch John. John takes very deliberate for a bowler with power like his. Watch him get the ball all the way out on the lane. And he must get it to the right, or else he's going to get some kind of symmetrical design. Now watch the 5-pin go to the wall. The 6 takes out the 10, and the ball still has no deflection.
They bowl from opposite sides of the deck. This man a left-hander, Forrest the right-hander. They were roommates this week.
Steve is what we call answered the challenge. He's not going to give anything away. Steve is so similar to John, but they're both bowling from different sides. Watch how Steve's wrist is cocked at the top of the swing and stays there all the way until he releases the ball. And watch this ball go out. It makes a right-hand turn at about 40 feet and just cuts through the pins like it's nothing.
Never slowed down either. High game on the TV pair this week, 219. And has left Durban and Skidmore in his wake today, as I mentioned.
Just perfect. This is definitely going to be a strike fest.
Big man's working up an appetite, isn't he?
He's after that $13,000 meal.
Does that mean he's buying?
If he wins, he will.
Forrest said he was a little nervous coming in today. But once he gets up there and starts to roll him, everything straightens out. That helps.
Well, depends how you look at it. That was a great shot by John. He's trusting the ball like I've never seen him do on television. He's really bowling well. Watch how far out on the lane he gets this ball. He's standing way far to the left of the 4th arrow. He's hitting the 3rd arrow at the arrows. Ball's going out to about 7 or 8. 5-pin goes in front of it, in front of the 7-pin, which doesn't hit it, and the 6 hit the 10. He could have ended up with the 7-10 split on a good shot.
So Forrest, who is in 9th place after the 4th round and rolled games of 163, 233, and 162 before reeling off 18 straight strikes to put himself back into the picture for the finals, is now sitting in a spot where he is trailing by 13 pins. Excuse me, he is up by 3 pins. Can't even read my own writing. A 3-pin leader, John Forrest.
There's something you won't see. He almost left 2 7-10 splits on 2 pocket hits. I wouldn't change a thing. As much power as his ball generates at the pocket, that was just 2 head breaks for him.
This wasn't the lane that he rolled a 300 on, was it?
No, I don't think so. He rolled it in the other bay. This bowling center is unique. It has 3 bays of lanes. Well, he's gone through 4 frames now, and the only thing John Forrest has left is a 10-pin and a 7-pin. Steve Cook can get a strike here. He'll take the lead by 8 pins.
You know, we've talked so much about the positioning round and what they had to do. This fellow here moving from 15th to 4th in that final block. He had 5 games over 260. Not bad.
Oh, it's quite a feat. Well, they say turnabout's fair play. Steve, he just threw that ball perfect. A little light, but with his power, it doesn't really make a difference.
You get the feeling that Cook is suddenly becoming very confident about everything, even though he's looked that way since the very first match against Mike Durban. But he looks like he's really got things rolling now.
Well, he does. It looks like he's a little more relaxed. The prior two matches, he looked very tense, which is Steve's trademark. When he bowls on his telecast, he's a very intense player. Steve now is trailing by 3 pins, going into the 5th frame.
Bring you up to date as to where these fellas are, head to head, and here it is.
56 in the 3rd with a spare up in the 4th for Steve Cook, and John Forst has a similar score with 59 in the 3rd and a spare in the 4th.
Seven PBA titles, 6 years on the tour. We talked about that. That's a very nice feat. Well, he's streaking along right now.
Steve looks like he's right back where he wants to be.
He's in a hurry out here on the tour.
There's a lot going through John's mind when he's sitting on the bench. You know, the biggest thing is not only to win the tournament, but he'd be eligible for the Firestone Tournament of Champions, which is a must for a bowler on the tour. Another 10 pin. Oh, that's just another bad break. You watch, John gets the ball, good extension, gets the ball out on the lane, the wrist cup. Look at that ball turn. It just keeps turning and turning and turning. It's all the way out, but it is deflecting a little. John's going to have to make a little bit of a move to the right to compensate for that deflection at the end.
Well, you called that before the match today. You said that it's not going to do him any good to come in on that head pin. You got to take a different angle approach. Oh, my goodness. That's a mistake.
Well, yes, he shot at 3 10 pins already, and the 3rd one, it seems that he might have just rushed a little and taken it for granted. You can't do that with spares. Spares are the most important thing in this game. It's great, you don't need any if you throw 9 strikes a game, but not everybody gets 9 strikes a game.
When you leave an open, you're just asking for trouble.
Well, you just don't give Steve Cook an opportunity. Mr. Forst looking on, John Sr., he's a little worried now. He knows John's got to get some strikes in a row to keep Steve Cook at bay. That one was picture perfect. He threw that ball with a little more authority, if you can believe it, than he has the last 3. You watch, he puts everything he has into this ball. Gets the ball way out on the lane, but it didn't go out to the right as far. No deflection at all. That was the difference. The ball was deflecting a little when he left those 10 pins, and that time it had none at all.
Steve Cook. Not quite.
Steve went a little wide. Ball still came back. His ball will always come back. But the angle that it came into the pocket hit the 4-pin, and the 4-pin just laid into the 7-pin without enough force to knock it over.
Steve Cook, who also stands in line with my partner today, Joe Berardi, Mike Durban, as being one of the Firestone Tournament of Champion winners. Did that in 1981.
And he did it in great style.
287 in the title match. Steve Cook right now.
Steve's up 9 pins in this match, but John Forst is working on a strike. A strike in the 7th frame will put him at a +1 for this match. They're both, Cook is working at a 196 pace, which is below par what he has been the prior 2 games.
Reaches into the quiver and pulls out another arrow. And it's a big one. But he picked the right one. Comes up with yet another strike. The fourth one in this match against John Forst.
Forst knows he needs strikes from here out. If they both struck out, John Forst would win this match 237 to 236.
He's down 9 pins right now.
With a strike, he can take a 1-pin lead here.
Just a little bit too far right that time, maybe.
Well, it looks like John let his inexperience get to him. He just looked like he didn't get set long enough, and he made a bad shot. He got the ball way out on the lane. He knew it was a bad shot. Look at how disappointed he looks. You can't afford to do that on any telecast, especially against an awesome ball like Steve Cook.
Still looking for that first tour win, John Forst. He's nervous. What it's going to take is, Joe, probably get himself that one tournament victory and the taste of that victory and that experience that comes with it. Well, I think everything else takes care of itself after that.
Well, it's like you'll have to learn how to win. Out here, you have to learn how to make money. You do it in phases, then learn how to make the finals. Now you have to learn how to win.
Yeah, we're not talking about pocket change either. We're talking about some big cash. Well, that number 11 lane today has been a little rough on these fellas.
Yes, it has, and it's funny, all the higher players chose to finish on lane 11 because they felt it was the better lane for them.
So, young John Forst, whose average this week in the TV pair was 195.5.
Well, right now, if he strikes out, makes this pair and strikes out, he will have 195.
And Joe Salvemini is waiting for the winner of this one. It appears that it's going to be Big Steve Cook. Pack a little rosin in that hole.
Well, Steve has a 21-pin advantage right now, but this match is far from over.
Yes. But I'm just thinking out loud. If things continue the way they've been going, Mr. Cook looks like he's got things under control, at least to this point. But things can change. And they can change instantaneously.
That was a big shot there for Steve. It would have made it 31 pins, but now he's at a spare strike pace where he cannot afford to lose a pin. If he does lose a pin and count, John Forst could strike out and possibly tie or win the match. He was running this strikeout because he knew he threw it well, and a little bit of disappointment there.
And watching some of the reactionary moves that bowlers put on, you almost think that it would be nice if they came up with their own little dance, you know?
Well, there's some players out here.
Steps out there.
Oh yeah, there's some players out here that have more moves than Bobby Fischer.
Yeah, or John Travolta.
It's a big spare for Steve. He can't afford to let up for 1 second.
Concentration.
You notice that on Steve Cook's spares, he really lets go, throws the ball pretty hard. The reason for that being that his hook is so large on this first ball, he could hook by the spares. Right now, Steve is still at a 196 pace. The best Forst can do is 195 with 4 strikes. So this is a big shot here for Steve because that means in the 10th frame, if he strikes in the 9th, he cannot lose any wood, any count.
21-pin lead coming into this match. He had 14 strikes to get here. And 215.5 average in the previous matches.
Well, that's a mistake that Steve just can't understand. He just made a terrible shot there. He reared up the foul line and pulled it, but he pulled it enough to get a Brooklyn.
Believe that.
Well, that shows you how the game evens out sometimes. In the previous frame, he threw the ball absolutely perfect and left a solid 7. And made an errant shot and got away with a strike. Now the pressure's really on Forst.
21 down. Big shot. Those are the kind of shots you'll grow up on.
Very quickly, too. John's bowled a good game. Got no regrets. Steve on the last balls feels that he was distracted again. You know, everything is so quiet here, you can actually hear a pin drop, and something like that can break your concentration and make you make a bad shot.
I'm trying to figure out where the distraction's coming from, but I don't see it. All right, here's the obstacle now for Forst.
Well, Forst has got 135, needs 3 strikes in the 10th in order to bowl 195. I said before, breaks all even out. He's left a couple of 10 pins, and he just threw a bad shot there. Hit so light that could have left a 2-4-5, but something toppled into the 2-pin to give him a chance to win this match. He just closed his eyes and thanked everybody around him for that one.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Boy, that open frame in the 7th is plaguing.
Cook's not even looking. He's not even aware of what John Forst will get on this ball. He knows what he has to do, and he just has to go out and do it.
Still alive.
You couldn't ask for a better finish than this. Every game has been close, and especially this one.
Young, talented John Forst.
Well, John, he got a break on the first one, but the first one wouldn't have been any good without the second one, so he knew he needed it, and they put him to the test, and he answered it like a true professional.
Let's see how he does here. 3 strikes in a row working.
Needs them all.
He got it. He got it.
It's a big finish for John Forst. It's very important that he didn't lose a pin in count.
He finishes 195, which has been his average in the TV pairs.
That adrenaline gets going. You get to throw the ball a little harder. It doesn't hook as much, but he's got so much on the ball that it's still effective. Hits light, and that's probably one of his best shots.
So 195. It's in the books, and now Steve Cook could be the master of his own destiny. That's probably oversimplifying it, but that's the best way to put it right now.
Well, he needs a spare and a strike to win by 1 pin.
There's part of it.
Well, I think that's enough. Steve Cook is in excellent shape now. He needs 5 pins on 1 ball to win this match and go on to meet Joe Salvemini. He threw it out well. He knew he got enough on it. When the pins fell, he was running it out. I'm just glad I wasn't in his way.
Forst. Not much you can do now, John. You gave it your best shot, but that one open frame will haunt.
That's right.
Well, he leaves himself a split. It's certainly a doable one.
Well, if you have to leave a split, that's the time to do it, because all he needed was 5 pins, and he got 8, which is more than enough. And now we're going to have a battle on the left side here when Steve Cook meets Joe Salvemini.
A fisher, a hunter, and a golfer. And I'll bet he goes for the big fish. Doesn't worry about the teeth either, does he?
No, he doesn't.
Not quite. So he finishes with a 203. That's all he needed as he beats young Johnny Forst. 203, 195.
12 is a little easier for him.
Well, I tell you, they're dying hard in that 11th lane.
Well, that's just the difference in power. The 5-pin hit what we call half pocket, and the 5-pin usually goes over and hits the 10-pin. Look at his approach. He cups his wrist, but it sort of breaks at the top of the swing. He more or less spins the ball a little more. Gets down low at the line, good extension. Routine spare by Joe.
We've mentioned first place, 13,000. The loser can do no worse than 7,500.
Well, it's like a consolation prize. When you get this far, you're looking at one thing: 13,000 and another title.
Well, that's better than somebody dropping a bowling ball on your head. I think that you'd like to tell. Oh, what a day Cook has had. He had 20 strikes coming to this match and a 211.3 average, which is not quite what he's rolled during the week. But he's been up to the big challenges today.
Now you see the difference in power between the two players. Watch Steve's ball come in and rip the pins apart. Look at the 5-pin take out that 10-pin. Just awesome. That's the little bit of a difference that might give Steve Cook an edge in this match.
And he doesn't seem to be wearing any. He seems to be getting stronger as the competition keeps coming at him.
Well, at 6'7", 270, you tend to have a little durability.
Oh, he's giving it some hard looks now.
Well, it sort of surprised him. Because Steve, when he let that ball go, thought it was just perfect in the pocket, but ball hooked a little at the end, and believe it or not, it started out to be a good ball. Could have been a catastrophe. He broke the split up and then wound up with a seemingly routine spare.
Big Cook dwarfs his adversary today, 6'7" to 5'10".
He dwarfs all his adversaries. Well, like I said, Steve takes a lot off the ball, and you can't afford to throw it out. You've got to go straight at the spare. Now watch, he gets the ball real fast down the lane, but he starts it off a little too far left. The ball never has a chance to hook.
Uh-oh. Boy, he put that out on the last board, too, Joe. He almost had one in the channel that time.
Well, this will be exciting because Joe is a little farther out on the lane, a little farther to the left, closer to the gutter than Steve Cook. Even though he doesn't throw the same type of ball that Steve Cook does, his speed is a lot slower than Steve, which will generate just almost as much hook as Steve Cook's.
He looks like he's rolling on a part of the lane that hasn't been grooved in terms of the preceding efforts. You know, there's a little bit more oil out there where he's rolling it right now, too.
Well, right now he's in a place where nobody else is playing. There's a difference. He didn't get the ball quite that far out on the lane. Looks like he set it a little short. But the ball he threw was good enough to trip the 6-pin out. He pulls the ball a little here. And watch the ball turn over the last 20 feet. Hits high, but high enough to trip everything out. He's very happy with that one. Mr. Cook now has his work cut out, but we've seen Cook down before, and he's always come back, so I'm expecting something from Steve.
Some match going here, folks. Cook with a strike and 22 pins down, bowling in the 4th. High game this week on the TV pair, 219. We'll let you see that scoreboard just to update you.
I'll see Salvemini left the 10-pin in the first frame and then came back to the cover. Cook missed that spare, which is costly. If you remember last game, John Forst missed one spare and lost the game by 8 pins. If he would have made that spare, he would have went on to meet Salvemini.
That's a good point.
Well, it shows you how important spares are.
Keep that in mind when you're out there bowling this winter.
No doubt about it.
It's the 23rd strike that he has rolled since he started this competition today. And you know he's got to be happy.
He knows he got it out. He's just hoping it doesn't hook too high. Once the ball hits the 1-2 pocket, it's just like, okay, that one's done. Let's go to the next one.
Started out working in the bowling alleys, came up from a pin setter. Believe that. Oh, boy.
Well, we've just seen another design, so to speak. You watch that Salvemini must get the ball out far enough on the left-hand lane. That was his key all week. Every turn, every game that he bowled exceptionally well this week, he got the ball way out on the lane and far to near the gutter.
Tough pickup.
Well, this is a type of split, but you only go for the 2 pins because the wood is all important, and your chances of making this are 1 in 1,000.
So Salvemini, who finished 3rd in the 1983 Aquafest, Mr. Gatti's Open, with one tour victory under his belt and a career earnings total of $43,000 plus. And here's the grip that has established that.
See, not as much of a cupped wrist, no wrist aid, no watch. He'll spin the ball and get it out on the lane. That's a good shot right there. And the result is perfect. He's got to make sure he gets the ball out on the lane every time he throws it with enough speed so it won't hook and dive through the head pin and leave some sort of design.
Behind every successful man is a good woman. And there she is, his fiancée sitting right behind. We'll return to the 1983 Syracuse Open. Haven't we?
Yes, sir. He's been here all day with us. And no one has seemed to oust Steve Cook. He's come right up the line, fourth, third, and now the worst he can finish is second, but he's not thinking about that. He gets a strike here, he can increase his lead to 16 pins.
He's been down as low as 24th place earlier in the week and made the big run from 15 to 4th after last night's block. The big sweeping hook.
Well, he got the ball out very wide that time, a lot wider than normal. He's been having some trouble with lane 12, but he still generates enough power to get the ball back into the pocket. And that wide angle just makes the 4-pin just fall in the gutter and not hit the 7-pin.
Cook defeated Salvemini earlier in the week, 244 to 201. Then again, he defeated a lot of people earlier in the week. My.
That's incredible.
That's the second time he's done that, but yet he has reached this point. Obviously, he's still able to survive, but not in the kind of match that he's got here that he's looking at. Open frame, and again, go back to the point Joe mentioned, and that is spares, the name of the game. What does that do to the scoreboard? Well, there it is.
You see, Steve had a 4-pin lead, and in one ball turned around to a 7-pin deficit. So it just goes to show you that you can't take spares for granted. If he had those 2 spares now, he'd be up approximately 17 pins.
Like anything else, though, Joe, consistency is the name of the game. You've got to be consistent throughout, and he'll remember that opens frame number 5.
Steve knows he's got to get back on target. He can't let that bother him. He's in a predicament right now where he's got to throw some strikes to make up for those open frames, and he's answering the call very well.
Way out. And he brought it inside nicely.
Well, that's the key to Joe Salvemini's game right now, is to keep the ball outside the first arrow and let the ball hook in. You can't try and fight the lane and try and force the ball into the pocket. Got to let the ball go. Just asked for a re-rack and got it. Maybe he didn't like something he saw. At this point in time, you really have to take your time and think about every shot you're going to make, because Joe has to win this tournament in order to re-qualify himself for the Tournament of Champions.
Earlier, you saw that he'd been averaging 222 plus during the week. Won one title, and love to add another.
Big shot. Put Steve Cook in a 27-pin disadvantage. Looks like Joe Salvemini, after that split he left in the 4th frame, has increased his ball speed a little, trying to make sure that the ball doesn't hook too high.
Cook trying to erase the memories of that open 5th frame. And he's saying, why? Why would I go down? And he's down 27 pins.
Well, it looks like Joe Salvemini is taking a very good lead here. Steve having trouble. He's got his 3rd chance at a spare. If he makes this, it'll be his first one this game.
Now remember where he came from in the positioning round. 15th place. And he'll do no worse than 7,500.
This is a very important strike right here, because at this point, the best Steve Cook can bowl is 215. Right now, Joe Salvemini is bowling at a 211 pace. So Steve must have the rest of the way have all strikes. This is his good lane. He hasn't been having too much problem with lane 11. It's been lane 12 that's been giving him all the headaches.
Well over $300,000 in career earnings. Steve Cook.
Steve knows he's in trouble. Right now, if Joe Salvemini stays clean throughout the 8th, 9th, and 10th frames with good counts, he won't need another strike to win this tournament.
Steve Cook will finish 4th here in 1978 and 7th in 1981. So now the youngster, Joe Salvemini.
Well, if he can get this strike, it'll be a 38-pin lead with 2 frames to go, and it's kind of hard to make that up.
And a 15-8-1 record for the week, and won 5 of 8 in the big block. And he is sensing a chance to get that second big tour title.
Well, if he gets his strike in the 9th frame, they'll go to 48 pins ahead of Steve Cook, and it'll just about put the icing on the cake, Eddie. It's a tough thing to come back in 2 frames being down 48 pins.
Cook, who hit the snag in the 5th with the Open, and trying to overcome this young man. 5 strikes in a row, 7 in the match.
There's Joe's fiancée, Pam Giroli. They're going to be married December 3rd, and she's thinking about a down payment on a house right now.
She's going to have enough to make it if he wins this one. Don't remind Joe about that, will you?
Well, just a little too late for Steve Cook right now. The best he can do is 204. Joe Salvemini knows that he has the match well in hand. All he needs is to keep the ball right on the lane. This is a key ball, 9th frame for Joe Salvemini. He knows if he gets this one, he can do no wrong in the 10th frame.
Make a good umpire, wouldn't you?
Ryan Luciano would be proud of him.
Cook a little bit disgusted with himself now, but he's bowled beautifully here today. He really has. Remember, when he started out in 4th place, he had to get by Durban, by Skidmore, and by Forst to get to this spot.
Well, Steve has no regrets, maybe a little in the last game, but he got through a very difficult field today, and he advanced his position from 4th to 2nd. Well, that about caps it. Joe Salvemini does not even need anything to win this tournament. He does not need to make an appearance on the approach right now, because the best Steve Cook can do is if he makes the spare, which is the 7-10 split, is 192. Joe Salvemini is at 192 without throwing a ball.
.191 finish for big Steve Cook. And he has indeed been a fun one to watch here today. He overcame almost all of the obstacles. Almost all the hurdles were cleared. But he could not get by this youngster, Joe Salvemini.
Well, it didn't really make a difference what he got there. Joe's our winner today. Receive a check for $13,000 and a rebirth to the Firestone Tournament of Champions.
He's never cashed in this event, so this is a good one for him.
Well, that's a good way to break a jinx, so to speak.
I would say. Working on his average of just a little under 207 for the year, he should help that. Seriously. He's just winding it up right now. Joe Salvemini from Reno, Nevada. And I'm sure that he might have some interesting words of advice for youngsters who hang around bowling alleys now with dreams, with aspirations of one day being here.
I guess that's how all of us got started.
I used to hang around him, but I didn't get nothing developed. Oh, there he is, Joe Salvemini. A happy winner indeed. Congratulations to a young man that's about to be married in December and has just come up with a $13,000 payday. We'll meet him here in Syracuse with our winner, Joe Salvemini. And he picked a great day to break into the pay column with a $13,000 payday. Joe, congratulations. And here to present you with a likeness of the check is our tournament director, Don Gates. Don?
Joe, this must be a mistake because left-handers and high qualifiers and top seeds don't win here, but congratulations anyways.
All right. Nice and easy, quick. You can take that $13,000 and make a down payment on your house. We had already got that figured out for you. Dan Barthold, who is with the Miller Brewing Company to present the trophy. Dan?
Joe, congratulations for your great victory from everybody at Miller. Thank you very much.
All right. And I would have to say that Joe Salvemini has had himself a very good, very interesting week here in Syracuse. And Joe Berardi, who thought he was going to be in this final session today, not quite, but I know he might want to get a tip from the young man that won it. Joe?
Yeah, Joe, you had a tough opponent, Steve Cook. He won his first 2 matches. When did you think you had him in the match? When did you know you won the tournament?
In the 9th frame, when I threw that strike in the 9th, after he missing that spare, I figured I had it pretty well locked up because I didn't even have to mark.
Well, Joe, you did a great job. Congratulations.
Thank you.
A couple of Joes and a great audience. The hospitality has been terrific in Syracuse as we wind up the 10th Syracuse Open, and we hope we have an opportunity to see you all again. So that's it. Joe Salvemini is our winner. $13,000 richer, a nice trophy to take home, and we hope to see you the next time around on our USA PBA Bowling Tour.